Hello everyone, welcome back to Never Lose Again, where we are finally going to be tackling the night bosses. This series would be completely useless without this episode because what's the point of Night Lord guides if you can't even reach them in the first place? Some of you may believe that this is the last episode of Never Lose Again, but I'm afraid that it isn't the case. I've got massive plans for the future and I'll be keeping it a secret until then. What you will immediately notice from the timestamps is that we don't actually have all the night bosses listed. For today, I'll just be covering the ones that are supposedly the ones most responsible for ending runs. And this is not just for Depth 5, this is for all players of all depths. I hope you enjoy, let's get right into it. An important tip to keep in mind for this fight is that the punish windows come in when the gargoyle is returning to its neutral stance. So the freeze frame here shows what his neutral stance looks like. If it's not transitioning back, it means that he's likely going to throw out another attack straight out of the blue. For this attack, this one's a roll catcher. You want to roll forward the moment you see the axe being dragged across the ground, so it's as soon as you see the sparks. In this freeze frame, although the entire body is covering the axe, we can slightly see that there is something bright emanating from behind the gargoyle. Whenever there is a roar, there is going to be an axe slam that will catch your roll with its quakes. If you dodge the axe with the late part of your roll, you will be able to roll the quakes that follow. To make things easy and comfortable, I just like to take my camera off and run around him. For the twin blades, this is usually where players tend to fall, and it's for good reason. I usually like to play more passive until he gets back to his axe phase. There are a few important attacks you need to know about in the twin blade phase. One of them is this one where he drags his weapon through the ground from the left. You normally want to roll back and left and run away after rolling. The reason is because there is a very dangerous follow-up that he can do, which you will see a bit later. This is the other move that's pretty dangerous. You'll have to rewind the footage if you didn't catch it, but just before this freeze frame, he stopped rotating his body and paused in place for a second while spinning his twin blade. It's after this second where he'll either decide to jump or stand in place for a bit longer. So firstly, you'd want to create space such that you are just outside of being hit if he does decide to spin around in place. If he jumps, all you got to do is run in towards the spot where he left the ground. You can add in a roll just to be extra safe. Great Red Bear. This one's actually easier than a lot of people think, so much so that the two prelude bears are ironically much harder to deal with than the actual boss. First off, we've got this move where Great Red Bear drags his right hand through the ground like a scoop. All we gotta do is jump it. This may sound counterintuitive, but the safest place to fight him is actually up and close, and it is solely because of this move, where his paws land in front of him at the end of the pounce and it can often catch rolls. If you're already close, like me here for instance, you want to roll to the side early. But if you're on the further end of this move, you want to roll not when he gets close, but just before the paws land on the ground. Roll any earlier and he's caught your roll. Nearly every single combo starts with this delayed slam into the ground, into a quick paw swipe. I like to roll forward because the range on it can be a bit deceiving sometimes. One of the ways he could go after the swipe is to stick his left arm into the ground and pull it out. For this, you can simply jump it. The last attack you gotta jump is this one that he can do out of neutral, in which he thrusts both arms into the ground. If you look really closely, you can see that this combo starter is a little different but still functions the same way. After the first paw swipe, you can follow it up with another two, and after that third swipe is where you can punish. So right here, you can see that the two swipe combo ender immediately appears again after a slightly different starter, which will still open another opportunity for a punish. As for the last combo starter, that slam is just replaced with a swipe from the left arm. Finally, we've got the last combo ender for the first phase. He's just going to bump his left paw into the ground twice, followed by a sweep from the right arm, to which you can punish. Rather than doing a paw swipe, he can decide to straight up belly flop on you. You can just roll backwards and punish the flop by hitting the arm. What's actually much safer than running or rolling away is actually just blocking the roar. It's 100% physical, so 100% of its damage will be negated, and once you do guard it, you will be invulnerable to it for the rest of its duration. Now, I'm sorry, this move, you're going to have to rely on your internal clock for this one. The swing of the arms themselves are unreactable. For each attack, I like to just roll backwards and punish the double swipe at the end. The way you tell the difference between this and the drag to the ground is that one he'll raise his arm up high like so, and the other isn't. You'll have to be really patient to differentiate them consistently, so it's a good thing that both moves are quite delayed. For the rest of the fight, he's going to be mostly spamming this combo ender, which is just double swipe from both sides. For the grab, if you do plan on rolling into it, you should roll the moment you see the arms close, not when you think they are going to. So for the beginning of this attack, you'll see that he's just walking towards you with his arms out, but without actually closing them just yet. For me, I've got a bit of space already, so I simply run away just to be safe. Death Knights. These guys have claimed the most lives, but let me tell you, they can be trivialized by backstabs. For the first backstab for the Axe Knight, you can just roll forward on this outward double axe sweep. There will be two instances where he does this. This is one of them, the third move of the combo. For mages or skill users, I recommend using your melee option for the backstabs and then follow it up with whatever spells or skills that you may have. The grab is actually pretty tough to dodge because its hitbox lingers, and worst of all, it is delayed and unreactable. You want to roll when you see a deep blue aura briefly emanate from him. It's the exact same time you would hear that ringing grab sound you would hear before any grab in this game. It occurs just before this freeze frame, so roll back the clip if you didn't quite catch it. And I also recommend rolling forward to minimize the chances of getting grabbed if you do happen to mess up the timing a bit. For this spinning axe move, I recommend just running away and not punishing it. You'd be surprised how little of a punish window you'd have after he uses this move. The other instance of the double axe sweep is if you decide to roll backwards on the zap dash. For this little combo that he does, if you are close, he will follow it up with a one-handed axe sweep, which is another good opportunity for a backstab. As you're about to see, I actually tried to bait it out, but unfortunately couldn't. There will be an instance later in this fight where I was successful though. This is going to be a pretty important tip. Whenever you get a backstab or you're ever trying to run away from a move, always pan your camera around to get a good look at your surroundings. Normally, when you're the only one left alive, it'll just be the other two Death Knights you have to worry about. In trios, you just have to be careful not to run into another Death Knight that's trying to attack a teammate. On the bright side, the long half-axe variant will have more opportunities for backstabs than the axe variant. In this fight, it is coded that only one Death Knight will chase you at a time, and no other will attack unless you get within close proximity. As you saw just now, both lightning slashes from the long haft are free backstabs, but you're going to be getting most of them from the combos. This one in particular, he'll do 2 swings in quick succession followed by 1 delayed swing, which you can backstab. Another combo starter is a delayed swing from the same side. What you'll notice is that both combo starters shown were both ended the same way with this delayed backhanded swing from the right. The last combo starter is the delayed swing into a quick overhead. For this variant, he'll do 2 delayed swings at the end. Sometimes he'll do just 1. This may feel like a lot to take in at once, but these swings performed at the end of each combo are so delayed that it's pretty easy to react to whatever he's doing. And it becomes more of an issue of whether or not you can time your rolls on these delayed swings. The last thing to note about the Axe Death Knight is that if he goes for his long combo and doesn't end up doing the outward double axe sweep, he'll do this one-handed backhand attack to end the combo. This is the same attack used just earlier to end that other combo. Just like the Death Knights, we're going to be taking advantage of backstabs to get around this guy's moveset. With that said, I do recommend playing ranged or just using whatever other means to trivialize this boss. For Wilder, the grapple stuns and draws the Curseblade in. For this first move, whenever he gets on a handstand, he's going to throw two throwing knives at you with his feet. You'll know when to roll when you see the first knife flash like this. The safest move to backstab is the spinning sequence. You can roll the last attack and quickly get a backstab from it. I will show you how to deal with a Curseblade for an indefinite period of time, but even with that said, I'd say in every Trios run, it is recommended that at least 2 or 3 of you on the team should just hammer down on the Curseblade and just focus on getting rid of him as fast as possible. Just rip out your ultimate if you have it on you. The next opportunity for a backstab is this double sweep he does from the left and right. You need to roll forward against the sweeps, otherwise your roll will get caught by the attack. Another opening for a backstab is this cartwheel he does at the end of his combos. Just roll forward on it and you should be good to go. If you're not as familiar with the moveset, I highly recommend just running away and going for backstabs. And the reason is because if you go for normal hits, the retaliations are fast and some of them are delayed. So in any other game, I would normally never play like this. I just run away, go for backstabs, and spam grapple. Now that Curseblade is out of the way, let's tackle Divine Beast Warrior. If you can master this guy's moveset, in which, let me tell you, is a lot easier than Curseblade's, then you've pretty much won the fight. And it's interesting because I found out that most runs end from a 1v3 against the Divine Beast Warrior and not the Curseblade. It's for good reason why this is the case, because the way I recommend fighting him is not exactly conventional. Starting with the Lightning Spear. Just strafe back and jump. You can roll too if that's what you prefer. Now for the way we're going to fight him, it's all in the strafing, and to do this we need to have our target lock off of him for most of the encounter. All the kicks and shoulder bumps can be strafed. every time you roll or strafe, you always want to position yourself directly behind or to either side of him before going for a punish. And we're doing this all because of one move. Some of you probably know what it is. As for what's before us, the kick is a combo starter, so I don't recommend punishing this attack, but punish whatever he does after. You can, however, punish the shoulder bumps. For this big slam, I advise creating a bit of space, so when you roll the attack, this will put you directly back into position, which is directly to either side of him. That one dangerous move is this one. If you are ever positioned directly in front and up close to him, the timing on the roll is very tight. Something that you will notice if you have been sticking to the style that I suggested is that he never went for this sequence. He'll only go for this if you are directly in front of him. As for dodging, I like to just roll the first swing and then strafe the others. For the final part of the attack, you can roll, you can jump, or you can stand right where he landed the sword. We can finally put both together. There is only just one nuance though. Periodically, the Curseblade will disappear into the fog and sneak up on you. This sneak attack is unreactable visually, so you will have to hear for it. You may not have heard it just now, but there is a whoosh sound that plays. If you replay the clip, you'll hear it just after the lightning spear hits the ground. When you hear the whoosh, this is when you want to roll to avoid the sneak attack. Some of you may feel skeptical of the strafing method, but if you're not confident enough for it, you can always roll the attacks. So long as you maintain correct positioning, you will still do just fine. Now it's time for the Knight Cavalry. These guys are actually quite difficult because unlike Death Knights and Curseblade and Divine Beast Warrior, both Knight Cavalries do not take turns. Both can straight up attack you whenever they want, much like Balancers in Phase 1. For this fight, I suggest taking your target lock off and monitor the one that's not attacking you while punishing the one that is attacking you. This is, of course, something you should only be doing if you are the only one left alive in this fight. You are much better off stalling them for an ultimate to revive your teammates rather than fighting them alone. They're just that dangerous. For this first attack, the leap can be punished with something light. A common move is this bump. I don't recommend punishing this attack since both Knight Cavalry tend to often follow it up with something quick. That follow-up attack can be punished, but just because you can punish it doesn't mean you should, because if I went for free damage, that would just put me in a bad position. This delayed slam on the ground is also another attack you can punish. An indicator of this is the lengthened giddy they do with their horses. A great way to sneak in free damage is that the Knight Cavalry will sometimes turn their horse to face you like this, and this rotation is often a free window for a quick attack. Another window of free damage is this giddy. They will follow it up with a bump or a quick sweep of their weapon based on which side you are on relative to the horse. Once you've gotten them off their horse, you can start going for backstabs. Every single attack can be rolled and is an opportunity for a backstab. Every time you get one, you and your teammates should be ganging up to try and get rid of one as fast as possible. For each one, if you are alone, you want to use the same technique we have been using for the Death Knights, in which we pan our camera around briefly to monitor the other lingering threats. In this case, it's the other Knight Cavalry. If you've got fire on you, that's even better for this fight. If you kill the horse with fire, you wouldn't have to fight the Knight Cavalry on the ground. They would just die instantly. You'll see what that looks like nearer to the end of this fight. For the flail, every attack is pretty much the same except the weapon is just replaced. For Demon in Pain and Demon from Below, just like Night Cavalry, I do recommend fighting them without target lock. But for that fight, it would be tough to talk about the moveset, so I thought it'd be easier to first go over Demon Prince before those two. Because if you know how to comfortably fight Demon Prince, you'll be able to more comfortably handle two of a lesser moveset simultaneously. Unlike Dark Souls 3, we've got Surge Sprint, so we're going to abuse as much as we can out of it. For this fireball he throws at you, just run towards it. The small swipes that he does often have a combo ender. You want to roll each swipe and only punish after the combo ender. In this case, the combo ender is the Fire Pledge. You can roll towards it or strafe to the side if you're close. If you're far, you have to roll to either side. Note that if you are close and he does the Fire Pledge out of neutral, you need to roll early. And you don't have to worry about your roll getting caught by the Fire Pledge because they will emerge from behind you. What I'm trying to get at is the flames don't come from where the hand was slammed. They start coming out from in front with some space in between. If you continue to watch this fight, you'll easily see what I mean by this. When you see him charging up like this, he's going to flap his wings. This is going to release an ember that you need to dodge, and then he'll follow it up with his special move. If you kill the Demon in Pain first from Night 1, you'll face off against the laser. Because we have Surge Sprint and Nightreign, the laser is very exploitable. If your teammates aren't aware of this, you should outrageously ping to let them know which one you should be killing first. For the final blast, make sure to back off a bit before going back in. The initial hitbox can catch anyone behind him so long as they're close. A lot of the time, you'll generally see me strafing and rolling to the right, and it's because of this combo ender where he drags his right hand through the ground and leaving behind some magma. If you continuously position yourself to the right of him, this move will miss you. There are two moves he can do in retaliation to you positioning yourself behind him. You've seen one already. It was just a quick turnaround swipe that I wouldn't recommend punishing because he likes to often chain it into more swipes. But this one where he does a backhand swipe is an attack you can punish. You want to roll forward the moment you see his 2 feet land on the ground. I say this because this attack is delayed and can often catch rolls. For the grab, roll twice in succession, preferably forward so you end up behind him. What you'll notice throughout the fight is that sometimes he squishes himself against the wall, which is akin to entering the Night Tide. What's interesting about the laser is that if you are the one being targeted, the initial laser beam will track you, so whichever way you decide to take to go around him does matter. So in a similar scenario, you'd want to briefly enter the Night Tide to go around him the right way so that his behind faces the center of the circle. Here you'll see an example of what that could look like. The last turnaround move he could do is the quick fire pledge. He often likes to follow this one up with a quick swipe. If you're close and under him, it'll go straight over you. When it comes to fighting the demon in pain and demon from below, this sequence is very common and is probably the most important one to know about. What you want to do is just dodge forward on one of the claw attacks and run behind them to evade the rest of the sequence. Now that you know the moveset, all you need to know now is the strategy for handling both of them at the same time. We're going to make full use of our ability to reposition quickly with Surge Sprint. The idea is that after one attack, we're going to rush to the other to force an attack out of it. If in that scenario both are still performing their attacks or are far from us, we can start going for punishes. I like to first focus on one first because if you can get one down, that's pretty much the hard part done. And that one we want to take down first is the Demon of Pain. The combo that the demon from below is performing, we can roll forward on one of the claw attacks, but unlike Demon Prince, they won't stop unleashing the rest of the combo. So the moment you dodge it, you can ignore them for a while, allowing you to get some damage on the other demon. When it comes to alternating attacks between both, you normally want to keep one behind the other. You neither want to ever be sandwiched nor have them side by side in front of you. If this happens, you place yourself at a greater risk of getting frame trapped. Okay, Grafted Monarch. A lot of players struggle with this one because he hits hard, his moves are very delayed, and he has a lot of health for a Night 1 boss. Generally speaking, you can just run away from every delayed move. Don't even bother dodging them. And then the ones that come out quickly are ones you can time the dodges easily. There are a few moves that are particularly dangerous, but once you know how to deal with them, this fight is going to feel like a walk in the park. As you've seen already, you should keep the punishes either light or ranged because of that one tornado attack that comes out quickly. As for the swing, I like to roll to the left because the swing itself is pretty slow. So if you roll to the right, it can still catch your roll. For this chain, the first 3 hits come out in succession with the first being delayed. Don't even bother trying to time the dodges, just run away. For the last 2, you can roll these as these are more easily telegraphed. As for the jumping, pay close attention to the shoulders. You should jump when you see him raising them. This is one of the really dangerous moves. For some reason, this move has absurd tracking, and so you can't outrun it, and you can't even see it that well because it's just a little gust of wind. The trick is to stay really close and dodge right and forward to his left side with each swing of the axe. For the tail, you can jump the swing around if you're close. To my surprise, the timing of the roll on the final slam is actually more generous than I thought. And the quakes that follow the slam don't have a hitbox, they're just there for show. The last dangerous move are the horns. When playing online in trios, for some odd reason, this move is always lagging out, which makes it really difficult to time the roll on it. So what I like to do is run right and around them so I don't have to worry about mistiming any rolls. I also like to add in a roll just to be extra safe or if I'm just shy of being close enough. You're going to see a lot more examples throughout the rest of this fight. For this fight, a lot of the attacks are unpunishable, and so this fight is going to be more about baiting out the punishable ones through his combos. But before we talk about that, there are the daggers we need to address. At any distance other than up close, I like to roll twice and then sprint jump in the opposite direction for the rolls to avoid the flurry of daggers. Roll forwards twice for the last two dagger throws to get a big punish on him. This delayed overhead from the left is one of the combo starters you can entertain. I prefer not to because this is one of the ones that do catch me lacking sometimes. For the delayed runaround sweep, we actually want to roll towards him. The cursed sword coming round after the initial swipe does not have a hitbox, so you don't have to worry about your roll ever getting caught if that's what you're afraid of. The reason we want to roll towards him is to bait out the follow-up, which is this delayed sweep, where one of the attacks he could do is jump straight to the side and go for an overhead slam right after drawing the dagger. Whenever we see this, we want to roll forward close to him and immediately roll back. He's scripted to do 2 dagger swipes after this overhead slam of the cursed sword. The reason we want to do this is because the dagger attacks will always bait out a particular attack that we can punish safely. And one of the attacks we can punish safely is this Giant Crusher attack. What you're about to see after this is the exact same sequence reoccurring. From that point, you'll get the general gist for this fight. Another attack he can do as a follow-up to the Giant Crusher sweep is a slam by the same attack. You want to roll forward so that you end up right in front of him. This will bait out another attack that is punishable. If you end up too much to the side like you'll see here, he won't do it. The attack we want to bait out is this one. It's a flurry of the cursed sword and the Steel dagger. To evade this entire attack, we want to roll towards his tail and run away. Then roll it in once the Steel dagger hits the ground. You want to stay far enough to outspace the dagger, but also roll early enough to make sure you dodge the cursed sword. After that, we can go for our punish. If he does a sidestep into a sweep, we can stay close to bait out that same flurry. giant crusher attacks can be safely punished. This was the stab I was talking about. After the slam, he's going to pull out the Earthsteel dagger again, but this time he'll slightly delay it. You want to use the audio cue of him summoning the dagger to know when to roll backwards. Now, unfortunately, there is no better way I found to dodge this sequence other than to rely on your internal clock. You can run, but I've been less successful with it. Using your ultimate is not a bad option since he's only going to be doing this once and not again for the rest of the fight. It's during this phase where I'd like to be more passive, and that's when his cursed sword is glowing red with blood grease. This transition only happens once, so there's no harm in just running away. I suggest that after every punish that you run, because in this phase he likes to toss out a bunch of flurries when, if close, are just completely unavoidable. For this attack, he'll slowly pull the cursed sword back, but will quickly hurl it back even further just before releasing the swing. You'll have to replay the footage if you didn't catch it, but the moment you see it is when you dodge. I've paused it exactly when I saw it. Just like before, the sword will be pointing straight at you, but just before thrusting, he will pull back the sword. You want to react and roll when you see that pullback of the sword. If you replay it, you'll notice the quick pullback just before the freeze frame. DS3 made it impossible for us to attack the legs because of the jumping fire breath. But in this game, we have Surge Sprint, so we can pretty much do whatever we want. What I often like to do is attack the head just to bait out an attack meant for the front and then just run to the back so I get more time to hack at the legs. When the dragon hovers just above the ground like this, it's going for a dust wave attack. You can just run towards it and you should be good. However, if you get stunned from the flap of the wings for being close but not close enough, you can just immediately jump and you'll dodge the dust wave that comes out. Now we've come to the hard part of the fight. I like to make it a rule that we only punish the thrusts and none of the slashes, because the only way we die in this fight is that we think we can punish a slash until he input reads you with another slash. The sound is also bugged out in Boss Arena for the second phase, so please bear with me on this one. The only slash I would allow punishing is this overhead one. A general rule for timing all the dodges on every thrust is to just roll forward the moment there is either movement, or if it's unreactable, it's as soon as the spear points directly towards you like you see here. For this move, I like to just run away and jump to avoid the landing shock. Any move that doesn't involve the spear and have huge AoE, I like to dodge those moves in the same way as well. On the lightning strike, just double jump on him twice the moment you see him thrust his spear up like so. If you are far from him, just be careful of the dust waves that he throws at you. You can run and jump to the side or roll them. Just like Nameless King, we're gonna set some rules to prevent ourselves from getting killed. The first one is just sticking and only punishing when we're on the same side as the shield, which is his left side or in front of him. It is the club that kills us in this fight, so we want to make sure we prevent entertaining attacks from the club as much as possible. Not only do they do insane damage, but they are also the hardest to play around. As for the minions, so long as you hold the aggro of the Draconic Tree Sentinel, they will not attack you. For every approaching slam, we want to roll to the right so we end up on the same side as the shield. For this attack, you first take your camera off and find where the soldiers are. Once you've identified their location, position yourself to the right or in front of them. When they start charging, run to the left. If this confuses you, I wouldn't worry too much about it since this sequence is going to get spammed a lot in this fight. Once they've gone past you, run back and position yourself next to DTS. The move that he does after the cavalrymen have finished their charge will go straight over and past you completely, so much so that you can even sneak in a few hits before the jump. You won't, however, see it in this specific instance because I just so happened to proc bleed at the perfect time. This is one of those dangerous moves. It's where he is dragging his club across the ground. You first want to get close and then roll. That alone will work, but if you are close enough, you could just run right around him instead, but I'd still include a roll just to be safe. As for this slam, don't even bother trying to dodge this. The timing is very tight, so I find it much easier just to run away. Just like Death Knights, each enemy will take turns on you. Make sure not to get close to Commander Nile or he will throw out an attack. As for the Knights, we're going to be taking advantage of backstabs to get rid of them. For the dual-wielding Knight, if the swords rotate anti-clockwise, he's going to do a bunch of spinning. For this, I like to just back off and then go in for the backstab once he's done spinning. Another opportunity for a backstab is the slam at the end of this flurry. Dodge forward on it and strafe around. If the swords instead rotate clockwise, you want to just do the same thing. Roll forward on the slam and strafe around. You can determine what move he's going for based on which way he rotates the swords. For the shield guy, this is pretty much how you want to get backstabs on him. Mind you, these are all solo tactics. In a trios match, all three of you should focus on getting rid of the banished knights first, and in that circumstance there will always be an extra person that can go for stray backstabs. When it comes to Commander Nile, there's only really one attack that he does that is very dangerous, and that's the stomp that he does. It's quick and it lingers to the point where you can't roll into it and it deals a lot of damage. So my best advice is to only attack him in between halberd attacks as they are pretty slow, and back off once a chain of halberd attacks end to avoid the stomp. After every small two-handed forward thrust, he will do that dangerous storm move again if you are close, so I'd advise just backing off. Every single kick where the foot doesn't directly connect with you can be jumped. I say this because sometimes the kicks can knock you out of the air if you aren't careful. Rolling will do just fine as well. The timing is pretty generous to the point where jumping feels a bit extra. The other time where he'll command a storm is after every charging wind attack, like what you saw just now. When it comes to fighting Deathrite Bird, I like to fight up really close to him. There are several reasons. The main reason is that there's only about 3 moves he can do while you're in this position, and these moves are the least dangerous ones. It's the attacks that come from the club and ghost flames that kill us, so similarly to DTS, there are certain attacks that we do not want to entertain. This first move he likes to do when you're up close is this retreating swing. All you have to know is that this move is delayed if you plan on rolling it. If you run towards him, you can low profile the move entirely. The next move he likes to throw out up close is a slam. You'll know it when you see him raise his arm like this. Deathrite Bird has an arsenal of very dangerous attacks that do a lot of damage and are hard to dodge. This move is one of the least damaging ones. The last move he does when up close is this peck. If you are directly under him, just roll when you see him do a small air hop. If you do end up in front of him after the first peck, he will follow it up with another. Being at a distance from Deathrite Bird at some point is inevitable, and when you're at a distance, this is where his most dangerous moves come out. This is one of them. For this sequence, all you need to know is that he can decide to do another quick swing straight after landing. The rest of the combo can be strafed. Arguably an even more dangerous move are these spirits. Sometimes I like seeing these as it gives me an opportunity to get close. Wait momentarily for the spirits to fan out a bit first and then run in. These spirits are like wraiths, so part of what makes them dangerous is that they are faster than you. If you're a Wilder or an Undertaker, you can cancel this on reaction. But for anyone else, I'd first run away from where the spears initially land and then roll in when the wave of spears reach me. The reason we first run away is because the further out the spears are from where they initially land, the more spread out they are. For the explosion, this can be cancelled. The way to evade it consistently is dependent on the map compass, which we don't have here in Boss Arena, so I'll show you how to evade it at the end of this fight if you're curious. How the explosion works is that there are going to be 5 trails spreading out in straight lines from the Deathrite Bird that are 72 degrees apart from each other, with one of the trails going in the direction of north. The way that we can apply this knowledge is that if you are close to the Deathrite Bird, you want to run away from it in the direction of south, or if you're going north, you just need to jump to the side when the explosion ruptures. For these really big bosses, I usually like to fight them with my target lock off so that if at any point I get confused as to what move they're throwing out, I can quickly pan my camera around to quickly get the information that I need. I've seen ways of fighting Dragonkin Soldier at the legs, but for me, I do find it easier to fight him from in front. This angle gives me a great view of every move that he's doing. At certain angles from behind, I tend to get confused as to what move he's throwing out. For this first combo, you're going to see it a lot. First two arm swipes are easily telegraphed except for the last one, which is the one you see on the screen right now. This one is delayed and is a roll catcher. You want to roll the moment you see those sparks on the ground as he's dragging his arm. You can punish this sequence by hitting his left hand. This drag back move he does with his right arm can be punished in the same way. If you're directly underneath him after the first swipe, rather than going for the second, he'll reach outwards with the same arm that he just swiped you with. This is how you can tell that he's about to drop it on you. This is punishable as well. This is also a sequence you're going to see quite often. This first move is a roll catcher. I suggest rolling the moment he sticks his hand into the ground or when you see the sparks. Timing the dodge on the follow-up has the same principle. Whenever he roars, he's going to charge at you by dragging himself across the ground. To dodge this, I suggest giving yourself some space first and then dodging on one of the arm swipes. It's very similar to dodging that one claw sequence from the Demon Prince. And as you saw there, you can run underneath his legs for the belly flop because having Surge Sprint enables us to do this. I like to add in a roll or a jump because the landing hitbox of the belly flop can be deceivingly big and it does hit from behind him. For phase 2, everything is pretty much the same except we've got lightning spears and he likes to fly a lot and go for dive bombs, which are pretty generous on the timing. I know this move gets a lot of players, and it's the reason I don't like fighting him from behind. If you do so, timing the roll becomes a little difficult and it's pretty dangerous because if there is any move that I'd get hit by in this fight, it'd be this one. From fighting in front, we essentially discourage him from throwing out this move. If you remember how we fought Nameless King's dragon, we're going to be fighting Ancient Dragon in a similar way. We bait out moves from the front just to run to the back and hack at the legs. Unlike Dragonkin Soldier, all moves from the Ancient Dragon are very easily telegraphed. Whenever you hear fire and the Ancient Dragon has not jumped off the ground, you can scoop to the back and hack at the tail. So long as you are at the tail, there's no risk of the fire reaching you. If he jumps while breathing, just chase the tail and you'll end up at the legs again when he lands. To avoid getting frame trapped in this phase, I suggest rolling forward on every swipe and rolling away on every slam. You saw a good example of both just now. Finally, for this one, roll twice to avoid the lightning that follows. With each gravity spike, we don't need to roll. Whenever we see purple, we can just run. Whenever the Fallingstar beast sticks its mandibles in the ground like this, it's going to launch some rocks at you. For this one in particular, since it's delayed, you can either roll it like I did or run to the side. The right time to roll on the grab is when the head pops back while fully opening the mandibles. This freeze frame shows the timing for when I rolled. As for the direction, I like to go back and right to get a heavy punish on the head. For the flip, it loves to spam this move and it's the easiest to dodge in its entire moveset. All you got to do is run away and the head will be open for a punish. As for timing the roll on this move, if you ever do need to, you should roll a second after the tail starts dragging through the ground. You don't want to roll when you see the tail touch the ground, but when you feel it's going to be scooped out. For the rush, you can simply run and roll to the side or jump. The body itself is not a hitbox, but only the mandibles. This specific tail whip is extremely delayed. If you struggle with timings, what I like to do is just get really close to the base of the tail and jump. This maximizes your odds of evading this attack. This scoop of rocks will come out more often, but this one isn't as delayed. The scoop will come straight after the mandibles get dug into the ground. For the spikes that come out, you want to take your camera off, and rather than simply just running away, you need to look to the sides because the spikes branch out really far with lines 120 degrees apart from each other. Each end will form pillars where we can ram the Fallingstar beast into for a stagger. However, sometimes the Fallingstar beast will just ram through the pillar as if it wasn't there, and destroying it in the process. What I like to do is get on top and jump off just before the collision, in case this happens. The really good thing about not having the Fallingstar beast ram through a pillar is that you can use the pillar as a barricade if not broken. I would go as far to encourage not leading it into the pillars in the last quarter of health, as it will just run through them without getting staggered. Okay, for some reason this grab is pretty delayed in that the sound comes out way earlier than the actual grab does. To time it, you want to roll when you see her right hand glow a dark blue. After the backhand slap, she's going to follow it up into a quick sword sweep. This is a small sequence that you can punish. Whenever she does this uppercut from the right, she's going to combo it into 2 more swipes. After the third one, we can go for our punish. If we just run away, she won't do the rest of the combo and we won't get our punish. The way we know she's going to go for the flurry is when she places her right hand on the ground like so while going for a swing. When we see this, we just want to back off and go back in once the sequence has ended. After the thrust, we can roll and strafe the rest of the combo given that we rolled in. The overhead swipe from the right is just a 2-hit combo rather than 3. Right, so this is the move that gets everyone. The proper way to dodge this in this game is roll left and forward to the left side of her, and then run behind and away for the rest of the spins. You can always use your ultimate to save yourself in case you mess up. Generally speaking, for every move that she does, I like to stay to the right and roll back on any sword sweeps I see. The reason is because there's this one double sword sweep from the Darkness Sword that comes out very fast and catches rolls. Because it comes out really fast, it's pretty difficult to differentiate it from other quick attacks. This is what that 3-hit combo has changed into. Rather than an uppercut, we get both swords coming in overhead at the same time. After every slam, there is a potential follow-up she can do. It's this double sword sweep from the fire sword. Sometimes she goes for it, sometimes she doesn't. Just be aware that it exists before going for any punishes. The start of the flurry combo is replaced with this. It's a low sweep that doesn't come out as fast as the other sword attacks. Just roll backwards and run away. Go back in when the sequence has ended. This move is not the 3-hit combo because as you can see the swords aren't together and aligned. The Darkness Sword is much further from the Fire Sword. When you see this, run left and roll on the sweep of the swords. There are two variations of this move. Both create pillars after the turnaround sweep. One uses the Darkness Sword first while the other uses the Fire Sword first. The turnaround sweeps are fast and can be reacted. You just need to remember that they are followed up with a pledge. A potential follow-up to this move which you didn't see earlier is a thrust. It's delayed and it does catch rolls, so I suggest rolling the moment you hear the sword getting dragged across the ground. The other methods to dodge this move is to either run right instead of left or just roll in place. They work, but I'm generally less successful with them. A new move that's been added is this double uppercut from the right. You can roll forward and right on this one. The 2-hit combo turns into this. If you do end up staying close, you will see it come out. Rather than an overhead sweep from the right, we've got it starting from a quick sweep from the left. And what you'll notice about this one is that the Darkness Sword replaces the movements of the slaps that she did in the first phase. This turnaround move is a little different in that pillars come out first before the sweep, but I find that this difference doesn't matter much because the timings for both dodges and all variations of the turnaround moves are all the same as each other. Starting off with this dive bomb, this can be punished safely if you punish immediately after dodging, as Dancing Lion can follow up with a quick bite which can also be punished. The grab is also a move that can be punished. I generally recommend fighting Dancing Lion head on, as sometimes it can be hard to tell what it's doing when you are to the side or behind it. All turnaround moves can be punished too. When it comes to the breathing, I like to take my target lock off and look at the ground to time my jumps better. This particular breath attack that's done out of neutral will make 3 full revolutions. This bite attack coming from the left is also the same move that was followed up after the dive bomb you saw at the beginning of the fight. If you haven't noticed, this move is a combo ender and can always be punished. For every double dive, I like to outspace the first, then run in and roll for the second. The roll isn't necessary in all cases, but simply running hasn't been fully consistent for me, so I like to play it safe. It's the same with attacking and letting Dancing Lion go over you. For the breath attack that follows, this time we only need to jump once since only 1 revolution will be made instead of 3. When it stands up like this, we want to either run forward and behind it or roll backwards on the bite down. For the lightning phase in particular, I highly recommend going for the former option. Funnily enough, this move is probably the most dangerous one. For every phase, when you see Dancing Lion tilt its head anti-clockwise and from the right like so, you want to quickly take our camera off and roll forward. This is especially crucial on ice phase since this is where it's most dangerous. Because if you decide to roll back, the ice that follows the bite will catch your roll. You can roll forward on this move and punish it on all phases except ice. For that, I recommend running away and rolling backwards if needed. On every move during lightning phase that doesn't require a special way to dodge it other than just plain rolling, I recommend rolling backwards then taking your camera off to quickly make sure you aren't running into any lightning. Then after the lightning has struck, you can re-enable your target lock. On the stomp, the easiest way to dodge this is to just go up really close and jump. For the double dive in the wind phase, Dancing Lion will not pop its head out of the ground, nor will it go for any breath attacks. The ice that does spread out spreads really slowly to the point where I'd say it's not a bad option to run really far away and just roll based on whether or not the ice is coming your way. You will have a lot of time to react than you think. However, if you know the boss is on you, you can just roll to the right regardless of your position. After the first dive, you can see that the lightning that's about to strike will form a triangle in front of the dancing lion. You want to run inside this triangle and past the second dive. After the second dive, there will be a single tracking lightning strike, which you can see is just right behind me. I like to move out, then back in before jumping the breath. How this fight is going to work is that there are certain moves he can use to intertwine into a combo or use as a combo ender. For every combo in sequence, we must identify what the combo enders are so that we know when to punish and when to not. Starting off with the first, after the Bloodflame Talons, he'll go for a stab. This stab can be punished. When it comes to dealing with Bloodflame, we generally don't want to interact with him while he's standing in it. The reason is because all of the other attacks he does can be safely evaded when rolling into him. We take away that safety if we let him stand in Bloodflame. This backhand swing is a combo ender we can punish. Note that this move can also be used to start combos too. The way we know it is being used as a combo ender if it's used right after that heavy swing he did just beforehand. Before we move on, you need to remember what it sounds like when the ring gets attached to your body. This is crucial. This sound will play just after this freeze frame. The next combo ender is his stab in the ground. There is a hitbox when he plucks it out of the ground too. To stay safe, I like to run, but if there is Bloodflame around you, you may be limited to rolling into it. For that move, if we simply strafe to the right, we can low profile the entire swing. You may also strafe behind the talons to evade them without having to roll, except you'd be missing out on a little bit of damage at the beginning of the move. There are two variations of Bloodflame throws. The way you tell between both is what he does with his hand before reaching up. If he tosses his hand back before reaching into the blood pool like you see here, he's going to scatter it, to which you can dodge forward or forward and left. You will see much clearer examples later. If he reaches into it without tossing his hand back first, he's going to throw the Bloodflame straight at you. For that, you can either roll or run to the side. The strategy we're going to use, assuming that you are the only one still alive, starts with destroying the spear in the middle first. In my build codex videos, you may have noticed that I like to drop an item to reference where the middle is, because sometimes you think you're in the middle but you're actually not. The next part of the strategy is to fight him on the side away from the middle to minimize the amount of Bloodflame in our safe spot. While we're fighting him, we want to hear for 3 candles going off. That sound I told you to remember when the rings get attached to your body is the same one that is made when a candle goes off. Once you hear the spears reach 3 candles, that is your cue to run to the middle. You can also check the current amount of candles lit that are on each spear just by looking at them too. When he flies, you can either decide to roll forward twice or back twice. Both will result in different combo enders or extensions. Here's an example of him reaching his hand straight into the blood pool without waving it back first. This variant is only used as a combo ender but never out of a neutral stance. If you roll in, he may decide to do a scoop into a stab. To dodge this, roll to the left on the scoop, then roll forward on the stab. The last attack we can punish is this heavy overhead swing. Unlike the other moves, this one can be punished regardless of whether or not it's used as a combo extension or ender. He may even decide to jump first before going for an overhead swing. Starting off with the flips, you can't roll them because this attack ignores iframes. I like to run away or to the side. For all basic combos, we want to only punish when we see this overhead combo ender. If you try punish any other attack, you'll just input read your punish with a follow-up in the combo. In both phases, this heavy thrust is punishable. In the second phase, there is a follow-up, so we'll have to be a little quicker with the punish. Every time he drops his arm like so, he's going to throw out some malice at you. Whenever you're behind him, just be aware that he can do this. Every light stab is followed by a random move if close enough. You can punish whatever move he decides to throw out. In the first phase, this massive sweep is punishable, but in the second phase, he'll be able to follow it up. Another combo ender that is punishable is the scoop that he does with the greatsword. If you're not as familiar with the attacks he can throw out in basic combos, I suggest only going for punishes after 3-hit combos, and only going for the punish after the third attack. Any third hit of a combo includes the flips too. For this combo, the important thing you've got to remember is the second and third slashes come out in quick succession, with the fourth being delayed and easily telegraphed. The last slash or the fifth can be jumped. This is the follow-up to the heavy thrust, in case you're wondering. The follow-up to the heavy sweep is a quick double slash.